All right, so this is the Sunday every year. Our UU Church celebrates the annual Flower Communion, a tradition begun by Dr. Norbert Čapek in 1923 at the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia. So for reference, about just tidge over 100 years ago. And all of these people we're going to be referencing are Unitarians, because if you remember in our church's religious history, Unitarians and Universalists did not join up until the 60s, I believe. So all of these people references were old Unitarians. Just get clarity. The Flower Communion service is one of the very few rituals celebrated by most UU churches around the world. Many of us are also celebrating Mother's Day today, and before we get started differentiating the two, I wanted to take a moment to hold those in our hearts for whom this may be a challenging day, not one always filled with brunch, greeting cards, and love. There are those among us who have lost their mothers, those of us who have a difficult relationship with our mothers, those of us who have lost children or have difficulty conceiving or any variation of the above things. Please send your loving kindness for all of those who may be struggling on this day. So, long before Mother's Day was celebrated, Unitarian Juliet Ward Howe, a picture here, wrote her Mother's Day proclamation in 1870 to urge women across the world to join the cause of peace building. Her words held a radical call to create peace that still resonates today. Here's what she says: "Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come home to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up of our own, and it says, disarm, disarm." Following her proclamation, Howe began advocating then in 1873 for the creation of a Mother's Day for Peace to be held on June 2nd every year. This initiative lasted about 25 years. So you got Juliet Ward Howe, a Mother's Day for Peace. It lasted about 25 years. After that, a Methodist woman named Anna Jarvis campaigned to have a National Mother's Day holiday to honor the important role of moms, but after the holiday was officially established in 1914, she quickly became disillusioned by how commercialized it had become. By the time of her death in 1948, she had all but disavowed, just owned the holiday altogether, and even actively lobbied the government to see it removed from the American calendar. So she fought, became too commercialized. She goes, I'm out. The same year that Julia Ward Howe wrote her Mother's Day proclamation, the gal two pictures back, Norbert Čapek, the creator of the Flower Communion, was born in Czechoslovakia. Norbert Čapek was born into a Catholic family, but later abandoned Catholicism and entered ministry as a Baptist. He was a very successful Baptist preacher, but his ideas began to evolve and grow more open-minded and compassion-based. He began to come under intense criticism in Baptist circles for his liberal ideas and even faced heresy charges, though exonerated. He felt so persecuted in 1914, he left Czechoslovakia and came to the United States. 5 years later, he got the idea for a relief project for Czechs, and so he left formal parish ministry. Around this time, him and his family began attending the East Orange Unitarian Church. Upon discovering Unitarianism, he resigned his membership with the Baptists, feeling at last he had found kindred spirits and a theology that the world desperately needed. Neat. I couldn't agree more. Through his enthusiasm for Unitarianism, Čapek proposed to the American Unitarian Association that they support the founding of a Czechoslovakia Unitarian Church. They agreed and promised a stipend of $200 a month as a promise or a loan for 10 months to establish his church in Czechoslovakia. So he sailed home to Prague and began the task of starting this new church. They called it the Prague Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship, holding their first public meeting in 1922. 9 years later, this congregation would get a new name, the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia. Stunning. And official recognition from the Czech government. In 1923, to celebrate the first anniversary of his new Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia, he wrote the Flower Communion service as a new experiment in symbolizing our liberty and brotherhood. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bring people more closely together. He knew that many people in his current congregation carried painful memories of and dissatisfaction with traditional religious forms, as he himself did, so the format had to be one that would not alienate anyone who had forsaken other religious traditions. For example, the traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was clearly unacceptable to the members of his new congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic Church, of who they felt had once aided and abetted their suffering. So Čapek turned to the native beauty of the Czech countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. He asked that everyone bring a flower, which was collected at the door by the children of the congregation and placed in a vase. The flowers in the vase were symbols of belonging together as one spiritual community. Then, he wrote, when they go home, each one is to take a flower just as it comes without making any distinction where it came from, whom it represents, to confess that we accept each other as brothers and sisters without regard to class, race, or any other distinction, acknowledging everybody as our friend who is ready and willing to search for truth and be of service to mankind. The Flower Communion was a tremendous success at the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia, and Čapek's wife, Maha, brought the Flower Communion to the United States when she came to tour and speak here in 1939. Maha would not return to Czechoslovakia until after the war, for it was at that time the days were darkening in Europe in the 1930s. From his pulpit, Norbert Čapek encouraged his fellow citizens to have courage in the face of growing Nazi madness. We are today the only nation in the whole of Europe that is ready to resist oppression. Confronting our descendants, we will never have to feel ashamed to the fact that as a small nation in the middle of Europe, we were ready to defend human dignity, freedom, and justice from violence, lies, and lawlessness. In 1939, Hitler's armies began the occupation of Czechoslovakia, and in 1940, the Gestapo began monitoring the services at Čapek's church. For a time, he veiled his message of freedom in biblical parables and religious double talk, but inevitably, he was arrested and all of his writings seized, and in short order, he was charged with high treason. So at the age of 72, Norbert Čapek was sent to the German concentration camp of Dachau, where, after suffering from the effects of starvation and hard labor, he died October 12, 1942. While maybe not nearly as pressing as the concerns experienced by Norbert Čapek and his Unitarian congregation in Czechoslovakia during the war, most of us still have cause to feel unsettled. Hurt by members of our society that deny big issues like systemic racism, the now steady drumbeat erosion of human rights and due process, what to do with and how to humanely respond to the increasing number of refugees and immigrants to our country, wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East, Israel, that have no end in sight or easy answers. Climate change. So many issues that weigh heavy on our hearts. So what consolation or understanding of these crises today can we take away from Norbert Čapek's Flower Communion, created just over 100 years ago? I find comfort in the fact that we are all here together this morning, seeing familiar faces and voices gathered in communion and fellowship. Like a bouquet of flowers, we are more beautiful when we are together, supporting one another, and that is true for families, churches, countries. Norbert Čapek consecrated the flowers before his ceremony with this prayer, and here goes. May these flowers remind us, amid our diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion. May they also remind us of the value of camaraderie, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do the work in this world. I also take comfort in the fact that Heartland UU Church, while a small circle of faith, is a part of a larger circle of faith that is part of a whole community of humankind, diverse in intelligence, compassion, and energies. To that end, I ask you to always, though particularly this next week, to keep your eyes and our hearts open for the people, places, and situations you can reach out to, care for, nurture, and love, like good mothers. In memory of Norbert Chopik, of Juliet Ward Howe, and of every expression where the divine and human meet, we celebrate this morning's Flower Communion service. Grateful for the gifts of freedom, community, and of love. That one word, community, might have been a little overused in my speech here. Sorry about that. So in this spirit, as the music plays, I will begin by inviting you, row by row, starting from the front, to walk up quietly to the communal vase of flowers in the front and take a different flower than the one you brought in to share. After you choose the flower that speaks to you, please move back to the sanctuary to begin our circle for joys and concerns. So you'll start, get your flower. Well, hold on one sec. We'll start, get your flower, and then you're going to go all around, and you're going to be stuck there, and then people just, you get the flow. Get what I'm saying? It is our hope that those of you at home, for those of you at home, also to take a moment to gather a flower or sit with intention and be with us. We see you. Once in the circle, please stand in silent reflection while others choose their flowers, sharing quietly in the Unitarian Universalist ritual of oneness and love. So there it goes. There you go.